few years ago, I was 32 and had just moved to a small rural town. I thought the peaceful surroundings would help me write my novel. One evening, I decided to take a walk down a dirt road. It was quiet, and the trees rustled gently in the breeze. But then I heard something strange coming from a nearby barn. It was a hollow cry, lingering in the air. My stomach twisted at the sound. The next few days were odd. While I sat in a field writing, I noticed the pigs. They would stop and just stare at me, their eyes glinting in the sun. I couldn't tell if they were curious or if something else was going on. Felt wrong. Then there was this goat. I swear it followed me everywhere. It bleated loudly, like it was trying to tell me something. My heart raced every time I felt its breath on my neck. I tried to shake it off, but it was relentless. One morning I met the local farmer. He looked uneasy as he fidgeted with his hat. I thought he might explain my bizarre encounters. "Things change under the full moon," he whispered. I felt a chill run down my spine. What did that even mean? Was I just imagining things? Or were these animals acting weird? As days passed, everything felt heightened. The animals seemed to watch me with an intensity one couldn't shake off. The pig stares felt knowing. It was like they understood my thoughts, and I don't know why, but it bothered me. I told myself I was losing it. One afternoon, I looked up from my notebook. That goat was back, staring right at me without blinking. Felt like a scene from a horror movie. I took a step back, and the goat moved with me, bleating as if trying to speak. I wanted to turn and run, but I felt rooted to the spot. My throat tightened. Then one night, I lay in bed, trying to sleep when those cries echoed from the barn again. This time it was worse. The cries sounded like a chorus of sorrow. I thought about the farmer's warning, and fear crept in. I tried to convince myself I was just being dramatic, but it didn't help. I sat up, heart racing, unsure of what to do next. Then I heard a soft knock at my bedroom window. My body stiffened. I turned slowly, my heart pounding. I didn't know what I might see out there. The night was dark, and shadows danced beyond the glass. I could barely breathe as I glanced outside. What I saw still haunts me. The goat stood there, staring back with those knowing eyes. Felt like it was waiting for me to respond. I couldn't move. I didn't scream or run. I simply sat there, paralyzed by my own fear. To this day, I can't shake those unsettling encounters. They didn't just happen. They linger with me, twisting in my mind. I never returned to that barn. I just packed my things and left town as quickly as I could. But the memory haunts me every night. The following day was suffocating. I didn't write a word. I just sat in the small cabin, staring at the walls. The silence felt oppressive, and my mind raced. I considered leaving town for good, but something kept me rooted there. Maybe it was unfinished business. Maybe curiosity. I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right in that barn. Around noon, I found myself walking toward it. I felt the weight of every step. The dirt road seemed longer than before, and my heart was on high alert. As I approached the barn, I noticed a faint light flickering through a crack in the wood. I paused, hesitant. What was that? I pulled the door open slowly, the creaking sound echoing in the stillness. Inside, the air was thick and smelled of wet hay and something else, something metallic. I squinted against the dim light and saw shadows moving about. My heart raced again. That S when I saw it. A dark figure stood in the corner, partially hidden by shadows. Its outline was familiar. I blinked to clear my vision, and my breath caught in my throat. It was the goat, but this time it wasn't he alone. Surrounding it were the pigs, their eyes reflecting the light like tiny lanterns. They all stood still, perfectly aligned, as if waiting for something or someone. Desperate to escape the rising panic within me, I turned to leave. Just as my foot stepped back, a sudden sound broke the silence. A scraping noise came from the back of the barn. I froze, listening intently. The farmeress warning echoed in my mind. Things change under the full moon. Then I heard a voice, low and gravelly, coming from the shadows. Did you really think you could just walk away? I whipped around, but I couldn't see who was speaking. The goats and pigs remained still, their eyes unblinking. I felt dread creep in. My hands shook, and a lump formed in my throat. I wanted to scream, but no sound came out. "Why are you here?" The voice was closer now, and I could feel its weight pressing down on me. "You need to know." Before I could process what was happening, the goat stepped forward, bleating once more. But this time it wasn't the ordinary bleat I'd grown accustomed to. Felt different, almost like a plea. I backed toward the door, heart thudding hard against my chest. I had to get away. I swung the door open and sprinted outside, the sunlight hitting my face like a slap. I looked back just in time to see a shadowy figure inching closer from the barn's entrance. Just when I thought I was safe, I felt a sharp tug on my shirt. I turned to find one of the pigs blocking my path, its eyes wide and almost pleading. Panic shot through me. "Move!" I shouted, but I don't think it understood. Then everything went dark. A blackness enveloped me, and the sounds of the barn faded away. My last thought before everything went quiet was that I had underestimated the warning. I was deeper in than I ever realized. I woke up on the ground, everything around me hazy and distorted. The sunlight felt harsh against my face, and the homey smells of the barn transformed into something sharp and acrid. Confusion seized me. Where was I? My hands pressed against the cool earth, and I pushed myself up, trying to shake off the lingering darkness. As I surveyed my surroundings, panic rose. I was outside the barn but not on the path. I had fallen into a ditch lined with tall grass. The sounds of the farm gradually returned, the low hum of insects, the distant call of birds, and the rustling of the animals. I scrambled to my feet, and my heart sank when I spotted the goats and pigs standing at the edge of the ditch, watching me intently. "Help me," I whispered, though I knew they couldn't understand. Moving slowly, I climbed out, but I couldn't shake their gaze. Felt like they were waiting. Waiting for what? Just as I reached the top, the gravelly voice rippled through the air again. "You should have listened." I turned sharply, scanning for the source, but there was nothing. Suddenly, the ground trembled beneath me. I regained my balance just as the goat stepped forward. Its eyes were wide, fearful, and almost pleading. For a moment, I could have sworn I saw something human in its gaze, something that urged me to stay. But I couldn't. I had to get away. I turned and ran, the sound of my footsteps echoing in my ears. I didn't stop until I reached the edge of the woods bordering the farm, gasping for breath. The cool shade felt comforting against my skin. The strange dynamic of the barn seemed far behind me, yet I could still feel it pulling at my thoughts. Just as I was trying to catch my breath, a rustling noise broke through my racing heart. I whipped around, expecting to see an animal, but it was just the wind playing tricks on me. I took a deep breath, trying to calm my mind, but as I turned back to the path, something caught my eye, a dark shape flitting among the trees. I squinted, and dread tightened my stomach when I realized it was a pig. It emerged from the underbrush, mud caked on its sides, and then another followed. They stopped a few feet away, making no sound but watching me, those eyes reflecting the late afternoon light like black marbles. "What do you want?" My voice trembled, and my heart raced again. The same feeling from the barn returned, clawing at the edges of my sanity. The first pig snorted and moved closer, nudging a branch with its snout. I stepped back instinctively, sensing this was something strange and powerful. It felt as if the woods were closing in, the trees leaning closer, pressing against me. Then I remembered the farmer's words. Things change under the full moon. The sun was starting to dip, casting an orange hue through the canopy. I had to escape. I turned sharply, ready to sprint back to the farmhouse. But then a chilling realization dawned on me. The animals were not letting me leave. Before I could act, something pricked at my ankle. I looked down to see one of the goats gathering speed before it propelled to the side and charged right at me. I stumbled back, but it was too late, collided with my legs, sending me tumbling into the underbrush. As I landed hard, a sudden fear hollered inside me. I wasn't alone. Shadows lurked behind the trees. The forest felt alive, and I was just the intruder. I strained to look back at the barn, its dark silhouette looming over the field. I could hear something a chant, maybe rising up through the air, mingling with the rustle of leaves. The animal's eyes flickered, watching me like a silent jury. I had to know what that sound meant. But as I scrambled to my feet, I understood. Whatever was happening, I was bound to find out soon. I stumbled deeper into the woods, my breath quickening and my pulse racing. Shadows danced among the trees, and I felt their grasp around me, pulling me into something I didn't understand. The animal's eyes haunted me as they watched from the edge of the clearing like silent sentinels. The chant rose again, woven through with an urgency I couldn't ignore. Each step felt like a mistake, the ground uneven and treacherous beneath me. I had to know what was going on, but dread gnawed at my mind. What if I was stepping into a trap? I paused for a moment, breathing heavily, listening to the whispering leaves. What could the barn possibly have to do with anything? As I moved deeper, I tried to keep my thoughts focused. I needed to make sense of the strange connection I felt with the animals. The goat had shown fear, and that pig, there was something unsettling about the way it looked at me. I glanced back, half expecting to see them following. But the only sound was the forest, surrounding me like a thick blanket. Then, I saw something shiny in the underbrush. Curiosity took hold, and I knelt down to inspect it. As I brushed away the leaves, my heart sank. It was a broken charm, a pendant shaped like a hoof, the kind you might see on a farm. But it was stained, not just with dirt but something darker, something that reminded me of blood. I recoiled, the unease in my gut swelling. I had to get back, but the chant drew me in again. I moved cautiously, skirting around fallen branches and brambles. The voices seemed to swell closer, reverberating through the trees, almost calling my name. Moving forward felt instinctual and wrong all at once. Suddenly, a piercing scream cut through the whispers. It was animalistic, raw. My instincts screamed for me to run, but instead, I stood frozen. The terror clawed at my heart. What was happening? Before I could decide, I heard a crashing sound behind me, twigs snapping, something heavy moving fast. I turned, my breath hitching in my throat. The second pig charged through the brush, mud flying as it skidded to a halt inches from me. Its eyes were wide, but not with fear. There was urgency, a kind of desperation. The creature grunted, its gaze darting from me to the deeper shadows of the woods. Then I saw it. A figure stood among the trees, its outline barely visible, but there was no mistaking the threat it represented. The anticipation made the air electrifying. I was being watched, judged almost. I stumbled backward, my panic rising. The chants morphed into another sound, closer now, breathless and rasping. It was pulling me towards the figure. My instincts screamed to flee, but I felt paralyzed. Then, just as quickly, the figure disappeared into the trees. The pig's attention shifted, clearly understanding something I did not. They turned and bolted into the shadows, leading the way as if guiding me to an answer I desperately needed. Panic mingled with curiosity. I had no choice but to follow. I couldn't stand idle while unknown forces circled around me. As I sprinted after them, a thought struck me. Whatever was happening, it was about to get worse. I ran, propelled by fear and the desperate hope that the pigs knew something I didn't. They moved through the underbrush with surprising speed, their hooves thudding rhythmically against the damp earth. I barely kept pace, my clothes snagging on the brambles and branches that reached out like grasping hands. The chanting hadn't faded, it grew louder, more distinct. I could make out words now, though their meaning still eluded me. They were a mix of strange syllables, rolling together in a way that felt ancient and wrong. What were they saying? I wanted to cover my ears, drown it out, but curiosity kept me alert. Then the pigs abruptly halted, snorting as they turned to face me. Their eyes glistened with expectation, urging me to move closer. I hesitated, scanning the shadows enveloping us. Nothing stirred but the distant rustling of leaves, but something felt far too still. The ground sloped downward, and I stumbled into a small hollow surrounded by thick undergrowth. A strange chill crawled over my skin as I glanced around. This felt like a gathering place, as if the woods themselves were holding their breath. To my left, something caught my eye. It was a circle of stones, almost perfectly arranged. They were old, covered in moss and dirt, but the signs of wear seemed too fresh for comfort. I stepped closer, heart thumping. Had someone been here recently? A feeling of dread settled in my stomach. Then I noticed something odd in the center of the stone circle. A pile of feathers, gray and black, lay against the ground. It was too large for just a bird. It had a heaviness about it, like a weighty secret. Suddenly, a nearby rustle broke through my reverie. My head whipped around, and there it was again, the feeling of being watched intensified. Out of the corner of my eye I caught movement. A large black figure melted out of the shadows. It was a cow, alone but not hostile. I felt a strange mix of fear and connection. It stood still, gazing at me with wide, dark eyes that felt ancient and knowing. The other animals had feared something. Was this cow a protector or a warning? Go back while you still can, it seemed to say without words. My instincts screamed at me. I took a step backward. Before I could process what to do, the chanting grew deafening. Tension thickened the air, something was coming. The pigs were gone, lost to the woods, and the cow shifted closer, its breathing growing heavier. I felt a surge of terror as the world around me seemed to blur. I thought about turning to run, to escape into the safety of my home, but the truth tugged at me. I had come too far to back down now. Then I heard a snap of twigs followed by the rustle of something crashing through the brush. I turned to face whatever was coming, heart hammering in my chest. That S when I saw it. A flash of silver fur darting through the trees. And behind it, shadows moved, blending into the darkness, closing in on me. I was trapped, surrounded by whispers of the unknown and echoes of danger. The cow's gaze locked onto mine, silently urging me to understand. I was about to find out just how deep this mystery went. I stood frozen, rooted in place by the uncertainty of it all. The silver flash, the creature darting through the trees, grew closer, and I could feel the air thickening around me. The chanting had shifted, rising and falling with an urgency that rattled my bones. It was like the woods were alive, their very essence thrumming with anticipation. The cow moved, nudging me to break my stupor. I could see its large, dark eyes filled with something profoundly unsettling, a mix of instinct and warning. I needed to decide, stay or run. Before I could make up my mind, the shadows took form. It was then that I noticed others emerging, haunting silhouettes slipping into the clearing like wraiths on the night air. The silver creature dashed closer, and suddenly, I could see it clearly. It was a wolf. Its fur glinted under the thin rays of moonlight that broke through the canopy above. A creature of sleek power, jaws poised as it silently assessed us. My heart raced. The woods, filled with rustling and chanting, suddenly seemed a trap ready to snap shut. The cow stepped in front of me, its massive body an unexpected shield. In that moment, I felt the weight of something primal in the air, and understanding that here, I was not the predator, but prey. The wolf blinked, its gaze flicking between me and the cow. I could almost hear its thoughts. Was it assessing my worth as a target, or seeking another path? Then, amidst that tension, the chanting reached a pitch that sent shivers down my spine. It shifted, a new voice joining, rising and falling in a strange rhythm. The stones arrayed beside us trembled, almost alive with energy. The feathers in the circle stirred as if caught in an unseen breeze. I was enveloped in the unknown, grappling with a confused flurry of emotions: fear, curiosity, a desperate need to understand. In that instant, the wolf lunged forward. But before I could even blink, the cow kicked, a forceful movement that sent the wolf skidding back into the shadows. I gasped, shocked by the fierce instinct in the animal I had initially tried to understand. The chanting faltered, a collective intake of breath as silence fell like a curtain. Surrounded by this surreal tableau, I instinctively stepped forward, caught somewhere between panic and raw intrigue. The cow's dark eyes held me, urging me closer. The wolf circled the periphery, for a moment unsure if it should retreat or press the attack. Then the ground trembled beneath my feet, and everything shifted again. The stones glowed faintly, illuminating the space in a ghostly light. I felt the air thicken, a strange pulse vibrating through the earth. What is happening? I murmured to myself, clenching my fists to steady my racing heart. As if in response, a sudden chill brushed against my skin. I turned to face the wolf again, but where it had stood, something else emerged from the darkness, a figure cloaked in shadows, its presence commanding and ominous. I knew with a sinking feeling that whatever was coming out of the depths of the night was not here to help. It carried a weight of dread that threatened to swallow us whole. I felt the urgency to move, but my legs were as heavy as stone. And then, amidst the shadows and the chanting, I found myself frozen by the revelation that I had stumbled into something much more dangerous than I had ever anticipated. The cloaked figure advanced, a mere silhouette against the pulsating glow of the stones. My heart thundered in my chest. This was no ordinary person. I sensed ancient power emanating from it, an aura that chilled me to the bone. The chanting swelled again, stronger now, and I fought the instinct to turn away. "Step forward," the figure commanded, its voice low and smooth, like silk over gravel. I hesitated. Somehow it knew my name, as if it had been waiting for me all along. Was it fear that kept me rooted, or something else? The cow remained steadfast, a massive guardian in this tense standoff. The wolf lingered at the edge of the clearing, ears perked and body tense, as if it too recognized the impending danger. It was caught in a web of decision, not knowing if it should flee or join the strange ceremony unfolding before us. I felt torn between wanting to flee and being drawn towards the figure. There was something oddly magnetic about it. As the figure extended its arm, a flicker of silver light danced at its fingertips. The chanting escalated, each word echoing through the trees, wrapping around me like a vine. I felt my breath quicken. "What do you want?" I finally managed to whisper, my voice barely a sound in the thickening air. The figure tilted its head slightly, and for a moment, I could almost see its features. A face, shadowy yet familiar, flashed before me. I knew it. Somehow I knew this being. Panic coursed through me. "You," I choked out, "you were in my dreams." "Dreams and reality are sometimes indistinguishable," the figure replied, its tone even and melodic. "You must choose your path." The weight of its words hung in the air. I glanced back at the cow. Was it trying to protect me, or was it tethering me to a danger it sensed? The wolf's eyes glinted, reflecting the eerie light. I could see its muscles coiling, ready for action. It too understood that this moment held a critical choice. Then, without any warning, the ground beneath us shifted violently. Stones rolled, and the cow snorted, stepping back as it lost its footing. I stumbled as the vibrations surged upward, pulling at my balance. The figure's expression remained unreadable as it continued the chant, even faster now, drawing in energy from the earth around us. I could feel the energy rippling outward like a shockwave, stirring the very air I breathed. My instincts screamed at me to run, but I was rooted to the spot, tangled in my own indecision. Then it all came crashing down. A heartbeat later, darkness swallowed the clearing. The luminous glow of the stones dimmed, and the chanting ceased. I groped in the blackness, my hands meeting only cold earth and emptiness. Panic surged through me. "What is happening?" I shouted, trying to pierce the silence. My voice was swallowed whole. And then, from the depths of that darkness, a pair of eyes opened. The wolf was suddenly close, its presence a sharp contrast to the absence surrounding me. I felt both comforted and terrified, tethered to the beast that could either guide me or bring my downfall. Now, as I stood in the pitch black, I realized I had a decision to make and I was running out of time. I stood still, my heart racing as the darkness pressed in around me. The wolf's eyes were the only source of light, and they seemed to pulse with a knowing intensity. What happened to the figure? The chanting? The stones? I felt like I had stepped off the edge of reality and into a nightmare. "Come with me," the wolf seemed to say with its gaze. I heard the low growl rumble in its throat, almost as if warning me of the danger still lurking. I took a breath, summoning the courage I desperately needed. If I stayed here, I was a sitting duck in this abyss. I started moving, inching toward the last place I'd seen the figure. As I made my way through the darkness, every rustle of leaves or snap of twigs sent shivers down my spine. My hands clawed at the ground, searching for any trace of familiarity in this realm of uncertainty. And then I felt it, a sharp jolt underfoot. My foot had landed on something solid. I bent down to investigate, fingers brushing against a stone. It was one of the glowing stones. How had it ended up here? I pushed up with both hands, trying to find my balance. The moment I stood, the darkness felt a little less suffocating. The faint glow illuminated a small area around me, revealing shapes in the distance. I squinted, trying to decipher the forms. There against the dark backdrop, I saw a shadow moving. My pulse quickened again. Was it the figure? I was tempted to call out, but fear gripped my throat. I couldn't risk attracting attention if it was dangerous. I took a cautious step, then another, inching closer to the moving shape. It was another animal. A large pig, its bulk outlined by the bluish light. I wasn't too sure whether I was relieved or alarmed. The pig grunted softly, its beady eyes focused on me as if sizing me up. I froze, unable to decide if I should retreat or find a way to calm the creature. And then it hit me. I had seen this pig before. In one of my dreams. It had been rooting through the dirt, but there was something else, a shimmering light around it. Something almost mystical. My breath caught in my throat. Could this be part of the same strange power surrounding the cloaked figure? The pig stepped toward me, its movements slow and deliberate. I reached out a hand, uncertain, feeling the tension in the air thicken. It stopped just short of my touch, and I could see its breath fogging in the cold. A sudden noise erupted from behind me, a rustling in the underbrush. I spun around, heart in my throat. Were more creatures appearing from the dark? In the dim light, I saw multiple pairs of eyes glowing in the shadows. They were not just watching. They were approaching, and the ground trembled slightly under their weight. I was surrounded. With a rush of panic, I turned back toward the pig, searching for answers. It seemed unfazed, calm in the face of the impending crowd. But then, without warning, the darkness lurched. The pig squealed, and I felt a pulse of energy radiate from it, washing over me like a wave. That S when I saw it. A sigil glowing faintly on the pig's side, the same one I had witnessed etched onto the stones. The animals were connected to everything unfolding around us. It was both terrifying and mesmerizing. As the approaching figures emerged in the light, I saw their forms. Cows, sheep, even a handful of goats. A gathering. But why were they here? And what did they want from me? I took a step back, realizing I had to make another decision quickly. I could either confront this strange assembly or flee while I still could. But deep down, I knew there was no escaping this. I was part of it now. As the first animal stepped closer, I could hear an echo of the chanting rise around me again, stronger, as if drawn from the depth of the night. The air shimmered, and the pig's eyes locked onto mine. I was running out of time. I stood frozen as the animals advanced. Every instinct screamed at me to retreat, but I couldn't move. The pig was still gazing into my eyes, and I felt a connection. It was as if it knew something I didn't. The chanting grew louder, swirling around us, wrapping the entire scene in an eerie rhythm. Suddenly, one of the cows stepped forward, its massive frame silhouetted against the faint glow. My heart sank. Why were these animals gathering? What did they want? The cow let out a low moo, deep and resonant. The sound reverberated off the trees, shaking the ground beneath me. I caught glimpses of their sigils, a pattern of swirling designs typical of the stones I had seen earlier. I couldn't shake the feeling that they were summoned for a reason, and I was at the center of it all. Why me? I whispered, half expecting an answer. Silence hung heavy in the air, only thickened by the chanting. But the animals didn't answer. They simply stared, their eyes unwavering. The pig shuffled closer again, and without thinking, I placed my hand on its side, directly over the sigil. A rush of warmth rippled through me, and I gasped, pulling my hand back. That warmth sparked something powerful inside. My breath quickened. Then I noticed something else. A flicker of movement at the edge of my vision, another shadow, larger than the rest. Turning, I found a horse emerging from the darkness, its sleek coat glistening even in the limited light. This was no ordinary horse. It was larger than any I had seen, its mane flowing like rippling shadows. My body tensed. Each step it took seemed to resonate deeper than the last, shaking the very ground. The horse's eyes met mine, and there was a depth there that made me shiver. The chanting intensified, almost demanding. My body writhed as if trying to follow the currents of the sound. The pig, cow, sheep, and goats all stood still as if waiting for something to unfold. As the horse approached, the others backed away, creating a circle around us. I felt like a participant in a ritual I didn't understand. And then I noticed something strange. Where the horse's hooves touched the ground, the earth glowed with faint silver light, the sigils tracing a path behind it. What was happening? Each pulse of energy from the horse sent my heart racing. I could feel something building, something monumental. The ground began to vibrate in rhythm with the chanting. My thoughts raced to the cloaked figure, the glowing stones. Everything was connected. Help me understand, I murmured almost as a prayer. I needed clarity amidst the chaos. And that's when it happened. The chanting shifted, the tone changing into something almost melodic, beckoning. A voice echoed in my head, clear as daylight, though its origin remained a mystery. Join us, become one with the circle. The moment the words struck, the animals moved closer again, their eyes reflecting an ancient wisdom. Panic gripped me, but there was no backing out now. A throbbing energy launched through me, tethering me to the very ground I stood upon. As the horse stepped even closer, I felt the first stirrings of a choice, a pull to cross the invisible threshold. One foot in this realm, the other in an unknown destiny. I was on the verge of something. I felt it, sensed it, but before I could process my next move, everything went dark. The light vanished abruptly, plunging us into an overwhelming void. I gasped, my heart pounding fiercely. What had just happened? The chanting abruptly stopped, and silence enveloped me. I was left standing in total darkness, surrounded by nothing but the soft echo of my breath. I needed to find a way out of this chaotic void. I could still feel the presence of the animals, but the air was heavier now, dragging me down. Then, out of the silence, I heard it, a whisper that sent chills down my spine. Choose. It was clear, deliberate, as if it came from deep within the earth itself. Choose what? I shouted, desperation clawing at my throat. I was trapped in the unknown, and something primal stirred inside, urging me to act before the darkness swallowed me whole. I stood in the void, the echoes of my thoughts ricocheting through the silence. My heart pounded against my ribs like a caged animal. Choose. The single word reverberated around me, more a summons than a suggestion. What was I meant to choose? Direction, fate? All I knew was that oblivion was closing in, ready to devour me whole. The whisper pressed closer, filling my mind with inexplicable images, flashes of the barn, the piercing stares of the animals, a feeling of longing buried so deep inside I'd almost forgotten it. I could feel the edges of the darkness curling, as if acknowledging the weight of my indecision. Suddenly, the earth quaked beneath me. It felt alive. Energy coursed through the ground, pulsing with the rhythm of my heart. In that moment, the air thickened, and the specter of the cloaked figure loomed before me, its face still obscured but somehow familiar. Choose, it repeated, a bit stronger now. The silence had shifted. It leaned on my uncertainty and fear, dragging me down into its folds. My thoughts raced, churning in a cyclone of conflict. Part of me wanted to flee, but another part craved understanding. What had I stumbled into? I took a deep breath, trying to grasp what my instincts were telling me. Those animals, they were watching me, waiting for something to happen. I thought back to the moments before I had entered the woods, to their piercing stares, to the goat that had never left my side. Could this be their call? I closed my eyes, willing myself to connect with the essence of the barn, the chanting, the animals, and the energy that now buzzed around me. I choose to understand, I whispered resolutely. I choose this path. In an instant, the darkness erupted into light. Shapes and colors swirled around me, and the ground beneath my feet became solid, transforming from the abyss to the familiar, albeit eerie, clearing in the woods. The stone circle radiated gently, and the animals were back, their eyes shimmering with recognition. They gathered close again, but this time they were calm, their energy syncing with mine. The cloaked figure materialized at the edge of the clearing, and the wolf stood to its side, watching with an intensity that made my heart race. Your choice has been made, the figure said, its voice layered with echoes of the forest, vibrating with ancient power. You are part of this cycle now. I felt a strange connection surge through me, intertwining with the warmth flooding my heart. I could hear the animalistic energy in the air, the resonance of lives intertwined with mine. It was both exhilarating and terrifying. Suddenly, the chorus of chanting returned, filling the air, wrapping around my body like a protective shroud. The animals began to move, circling me, the rhythm matching the pulse of the earth. It felt like the very fabric of nature was aligning, drawing me deeper into its secrets. And then, as I looked at the gathering, I sensed a greater purpose. They were guardians, protectors of this land, of an ancient pact. I had not merely stumbled into their world. I had been brought here to fulfill a destiny entwined with theirs. But before I could lose myself in the moment, a flicker of doubt slivered into my mind. Was this truly my path to embrace? Or was it merely an illusion created by my own fear? The cloaked figure had granted me this chance, but I didn't know what lay ahead. As the chanting swelled, so did an unsettling calm. The air shimmered with possibilities, but the more I looked, the more questions stirred inside me. What would happen next? What cost was involved? Would I ever truly break free of this connection if I wanted to? Or was it an eternal bond? And just as those thoughts flared bright, the light began to flicker, and an overwhelming sense of urgency grasped at my insides. The world around me blurred again. Was I meant to stay? Or was there still a path to escape? Would I be just another spectator in the shadow of the looming darkness? The animals circled tighter, their eyes glinting as they watched, anchoring my spiraling thoughts. They knew something I didn't. In their stares, a blend of understanding and expectation, a deeper truth stirred. Choose. The echo resonated, not just a directive but a reminder. I had the power to shape my journey, even amidst the unsettling unknown. The dimensions stretched before me, and it became clear I could harness this awakening, or I could succumb to the fear and leave. I took a deep breath, ready to embrace whatever awaited me, yet knowing there were paths yet unexplored. It felt so final, so raw, but I could only grasp its fullness in that moment of uncertainty. Would I become one with the circle, or would I resist just a bit longer? As the light twisted and expanded, I felt both hope and terror racing within me, a sensation I would continue to unpack, even as shadows flickered and danced along the edges of my understanding. I had made a choice, but the essence of my journey had just begun. I watched, not fully aware of what lay ahead, uncertain yet propelled into a future rippling with possibilities.